Hi, I'm Kate,
And I'm Toni, and
and
this
this
is
is
Sip
Sip
and
and
Stim.
Stim.
Pour a cup, take a break, settle down and join us on a whim. Gentle thoughts, honest talks, it's time for a sip and stim.
Welcome to Sip and Stim, where parenting on the spectrum pairs best with caffeine, coping skills, and stims. So, Kate, how has your week been? How are things going?
I don't know.
I caught you off
I forgot you were going to ask me that.
guard.
Sorry.
I know I hadn't thought
What
about
day is it?
it.
No, really, what day is today? Today's Tuesday or Thursday?
To
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Oh my gosh. It's still early in the week, so I don't want to say it's been a long week because I feel like then I'm gonna jinx it, but it's been a week. It's been a day. Um,
Especially if you don't know what today is, 2 days in, wait, or it's like a day and a half in the week, I guess.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just been the past 4 or 5 days have been really busy. We're preparing for a big concert at our church at the end of the month, and getting everything together for that has been a lot. And we did a bunch of yard work on Saturday because the weather was really nice. Um, but yeah, that I could not tell you what day it was like 5 minutes ago, so I'm
Or
really
one step in the right direction, right? Now you know the day, so we're there.
yeah, it's a little scary. But what about you? How are you?
Good. It's been I different reasons, but it's been a week. We have a surgery scheduled for my son Kevin, and that's been I don't even know how many days it's been. 3 weeks of having a sewing needle in his foot, and a little anxious. A little scared about the sedation, but I know he needs it, and I feel like a baby complaining because he's healthy, he's doing well, but it's scary. So that's bringing some emotions, but I'm looking forward to that being in the past. Um, and he's happy, so that's what matters most. So, um,
I
but
hope
yeah,
you ask them if you can keep the needle.
thank you for asking that because I would have never even thought because that's like a great, you keep. So I actually keep their teeth in my drawer when they
Yeah.
lose their teeth, and my daughter found them after she lost her most recent tooth, and she went, "Mommy, all the teeth are in your drawer. Did the tooth fairy leave them there?" I'm like, "Oh no, those are mine from when I was a little girl." So I don't know why that made me think of that, but I have to keep that with the teeth.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
It's like a
that'll
little
be a story.
momentum. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
He'll laugh about it someday, I think, but as of right now,
Yeah.
it gets your anxiety up a little bit.
Oh, poor guy. I mean, just the unknown. Like I hate the unknown, and I think a lot of people do. And he's just like, I just don't want to be going through this. And of course, I'd rather
Yeah.
take it for him, but fortunately, if that's the worst of our problems, we're doing pretty good. So,
Yeah. And that is a good way to look at it. Today we are having a conversation about something that people don't really think about. They just kind of do. We're talking about money and the cost of having children, specifically a child or individual that you're caring for that has ASD or autism. Um, so when you think about this topic, I mean, it's kind of something that you don't really talk about. I mean, I think money in general is something that people are just not really too keen on discussing um, with each other. You don't really talk about how much money you make and how much you pay on X, Y, and Z. And so we don't really think about what things cost and the breakdown of what things cost us on a daily basis. What what do you what are your thoughts about the costs that are associated with ASD?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I think my lens generally goes towards the therapies. Um, I see a variety of clients and their funding come from a variety of sources. And um, I do see the stressors for families when they're not really sure what's going to be expected of them. How much is that copay going to cost? When is this due? Can we make this work? I mean, I've had family literally like fight us on how much therapy they thought was clinically appropriate, and it was all because of the level of stress that the financial strain that it put on them. um Sometimes insurances are great, sometimes they're not, so even if you have it, it still can be a huge financial strain. I see that. I see the time investment that is put into the therapies, which takes away from their ability to spend time in other places. Maybe it's working. I see the costs for therapeutic equipment. um, and the only thing that I know is that there's all these lottery systems out there, and you're just kind of lucky if you get the funds. Or you're quote unquote lucky if you're next up on the list to start receiving the services. So that's kind of what I see. I'm sure I don't fully understand it to the full extent, because I imagine, like most things, there's hidden costs with caring for a child with a need such as ASD. But yeah, that's my
Yeah.
limited view.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. And along with those hidden costs, you think about one that comes to my mind automatically is like the the price of like gas right now.
Hmm.
Um, even here in where I live, it's pushing what, like 460 something a gallon.
Hmm.
And we can get reimbursed for taking Grayson to and from appointments. Um, but you need to be able to show proof that you took him to the appointment. So you have to have it signed off that you actually took him to the appointment. So you have to get a doctor's note that shows the address where the appointment was, and you have to calculate like the mileage and everything. You have to submit documentation every month. Um, and to be honest, I mean, it's a lot of paperwork. And so it's not something that's easy that you can just kind of do online. Like you have to handwrite everything out and mail it in. And I feel like it's a lot more complicated than it needs to be.
It
And
sounds like a job. I mean, that kind of sounds similar to like a small business owner, you
yeah,
know?
well, it is. It's a lot. And it's just kind of, I feel like it's done that way on purpose so that people are kind of encouraged not to do it. And, you hear about all of and I know we discussed this a couple weeks ago. You hear about all of like the whole Medicaid fraud that people
Hmm.
are, being investigated for and all of that. But you have to submit so much documentation and proof to be able to even do anything really. That I can't see how people could fraud the system that much, um, to the point where, they're getting basically like everything handed to them, literally. Um, and so for the transportation in this case, for us, we have to collect like parking ticket things like for parking garages, toll receipts, anything that has to deal with taking Grayson to appointments and the cost of getting him to and from there. Um, so they don't make it easy, but we do get at least a little bit reimbursed. It's not like full reimbursement, obviously, but it is like a partial reimbursement. So that's nice, but when you think about everything else that you're spending money on, especially like with your vehicle, not only are you paying for the gas, you're paying for like the maintenance of the car. like oil changes and all of that, and when you drive the distance that we do to get to appointments, you know, it all adds up. You know, I drive to and from the autism center 2 to 3 times a week, and that is 45 to 50 minutes away each
Oh,
way.
wow.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so my car definitely takes a beating, and I have to make sure that I keep up with the maintenance. So it's, yeah, I mean, it definitely that adds up, by itself. But when you do think about like those other things that you mentioned, like the equipment that, the insurance won't cover, or just, you have to jump through hoops to even get one partial denial to be able to get it covered by a secondary insurance or something. It's, it really is. I mean, they make it very, very difficult.
So the thing that I think about is, yeah, it's great you get these, partial reimbursements and so forth, but the amount of time that it takes you to gather all of this, the older I get, the more I realize time is money. Like time is even more valuable than money to me. And even so, if you were to replace that with something else, like bringing in income, I mean, that all builds up, and you must have to be so insanely organized. I mean, do you have like a file cabinet in your car or like a file folder? How do you keep all this stuff?
I used to have like one of those 3 ring binders with everything, but when that became too much, I did get a file cabinet that is in our basement in our office, and that has all of the documents, and it's separated by like specialists that he sees, and it's basically all of the medical files from birth until now.
Yeah, that's impressive because I have a hard time keeping my personal file cabinet just organized. And then I'm sure it's not to the extreme that way you have with your documents. Yeah, that's a lot. And I will say that what you're talking about, your transportation situation. So I know you and I probably live like an hour and a half apart, but where I am, because a lot of people can't cross over that Maryland line. Sometimes they can, depending upon their insurance. But a lot of people where I live in southern Pennsylvania, they come up your way for services. So
Hmm.
it's not uncommon for people to drive 50 minutes one way. Um, which to me, like I complain because I drive for work, but I'm actually working and then I come home and it's different versus like, yeah, this is very important. Therapy is essential, but that's a lot. That's a lot of travel
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And, fortunately, where you're close to Philadelphia and Baltimore, so it's not, too bad. But again, if you have straight Medicaid for whatever state you're in, you're kind of limited to that state. Unless you get a single case agreement with the insurance company,
Right.
which is nearly impossible to do.
Mhm.
Um, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever is available in your state.
Yeah.
Even if you do live kind of how you are on the border of Pennsylvania and Maryland, you're a hop, skip, and a jump away from Maryland, but your insurance is Pennsylvania, so you're stuck there.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, I mean, that definitely makes it kind of tricky, but um, yeah, I mean, that's just the way that they do things, and it's that's the one benefit of having a private insurance as a main, your first insurance, and then having the Medicaid as the secondary. But um, I know that a lot of families just don't have that possible like option available to them. Um, and to be honest, we did that for a really long time. We had Grayson on my insurance as primary and then the secondary with Medicaid. And it was great. I mean, everything was covered and, it was fine. But we were taking him to Baltimore a lot. And it just didn't, when I lost my job and everything, it was just too much for him and too much for Derek and I. I mean, we out of pocket costs were ridiculous. Um, so yeah, we moved everything up here and we're all in the CHOP network now, and we're very happy with CHOP. So
Yeah, that's good. I hear it's a good hospital. A lot of people that I know go there for various things. Um, so that's great that that's nearby. But still, 50 minutes is not. a hop, skip, and jump away. And then
Hmm.
the thing that really came to my mind as you were talking was that I can't even count on my hands the number of families that have chosen, and you're included in this, that have chosen to pick up and relocate to meet their child's needs, which, right, that's what parents should do. They meet their child's needs. Not everyone can do that, right? So I'm not
Hmm.
judging anyone's situation, but let's talk about those costs, maybe you
Yeah.
were in your forever home that you thought you were supposed to be in, and then you sold at the bad time in the housing market to sell. And, there there's so many things because I think what good parents do when they care about their child, they meet their needs no matter what that means for their inconvenience. So yeah, I think it's a lot.
Yeah, luckily we moved like right after the height of COVID. So, when we moved, the market was definitely a seller's market. And when we moved, we got a really great deal. The interest rate was low. But, that was then. You don't really think about how it impacts you now and in your future because, you know, the interest rate definitely is not where it was, 5 years ago. And when we are ready to move again, which honestly, I think we're probably ready in about 2 or 3 years, um, I anticipate it's going to be a lot more expensive to move, not just because the interest rates will be higher, but because of the cost of everything just being so much more than it was back in 2021 when we 2022 when we moved, whenever 22, no, 21 when we moved. So yeah, but yeah, that definitely is a cost that I didn't even think about, and we've done it, so definitely does it.
Were there
No,
like
no, go
other
ahead.
costs that, because you were sharing that that kind of like was something you never really thought about. Were there other things that you kind of didn't realize that were going to be a financial stressor on your family until afterwards?
The number one thing that comes to my mind are like his devices that he has,
Mm,
like his seizure alert devices, or like his elopement tracking devices and things like that. The Angel Sense monitor, they often do like a deal where they will give you like one monitor for free if you buy one, or the like Apple AirTags is what we use. But the thing about an AirTag is if you're not, I believe the way it works is it pings off of iPhones. So if he would run off and he has an AirTag, if he's not near somebody with an iPhone, I don't think that it picks up on the AirTag. So like he could just be MIA running through like wherever, without having that. But the Angel Sense is like a GPS monitor for him, like, and it just works all the time. So we have looked into that. We haven't gotten one. Um, but the seizure alert device that we are currently trying to get is a pad that goes under his mattress at night, and
mm,
it alerts the parent if any like seizure motion has been detected. We thought about doing like one of those baby monitors that you can put around like their ankle or their foot, but he would just rip it off. So we decided against that. But the seizure alert device, like we are working right now with our waiver funding to get it approved. Um, but that takes time. It's not an overnight thing. We've been at that for like 6 months now. Um, and also his cubby bed that he has, which is like a child safety bed. Those things are ridiculously expensive. Um, but they're worth it. He There was a good period where he was loving his cubby bed, and he would actually like fall asleep in there and stay in there for most of the night. I didn't like the whole zipping him in because I felt like it made me feel claustrophobic, and I'm not afraid of small spaces. But yeah, he would scream bloody murder, and I would get nervous. So um we will reintroduce the cubby bed, I think, once we get the seizures under control. But right now he's kind of so inconsistent with it that it's just it's not a good time right now for that.
yeah.
Um But his insurance did cover the cubby bed, but I had to fight them a lot. And it did take about a year and a half ish for us to get that covered.
That's a frequent talk conversation that I hear like when I go on social media and I hear parents discussing that's a like the cubby bed and the cost of that and alternatives are always a big hot topic. And there
Mhm.
really isn't anything great as an alternative. Like you really need that if you need to keep your child safe at night.
Yeah, and there are other companies that are coming out with things that are like the cubby bed, but I think that the cubby bed is really the one that kind of, when you think of like child safety beds, that's the one that you're going to think of first.
Hmm.
Um,
Are they
and
cheaper in price? Do they seem to be similar, like price wise?
um, no, no, I
Okay.
think that they're about the same. And I mean, the cubby bed, if you buy it out, you can buy it without insurance. It's very expensive. Even if you get there's a smart hub that you can get with it. And that has like a camera and a light and like makes sound and things like that. But the insurance company, 9 out of 10 times, will deny the smart hub. They will pay for the bed itself, but they won't pay for the hub. They
Mm.
did not pay for our hub. We don't have a hub because I was not going to pay an additional $1,500 um, for the hub. But now we are running into the issue of the seizure alert because at least if we had the hub, we would have been able to have a camera on him, and we can't now. So we've tried like different things. We've tried like having a blink camera on him, and just the way that the angles are and stuff, like I can't put the blink camera in the bed. So yeah, it you gotta kind of work some magic and, figure things out. I'm always call myself like a little MacGyver because I just make things up and I figure it out. But we'll get it. It might take a while, but we'll figure it out. Um, Another thing that we spent money on, actually, that we did out of pocket. Um, we did locks for the windows and the doors that they're
Mm.
like alarms, because he likes to open windows and doors. Um, and so that is very loud. It's really annoying. Um, and the last thing we actually just finished, we put a 6 foot fence up around our property.
Okay.
Um, yeah, we had a 4 foot wooden fence and it was starting to fall apart, kind of old, and he was starting to climb it. And so we went and figured that for safety, we would do a 6 foot vinyl fence. Um, so yeah, we paid a pretty penny for that, but
Yeah, I was
you
gonna
know,
say that's a pretty penny because I know we were looking into those kind of fences and I know what those cost. So
yeah,
yeah.
yep. So I was looking at, getting a grant for it or trying to find a grant for it, um, to pay for it, but we needed a fence like ASAP because it was just the windstorm that we had a couple weeks, or I guess it was a couple months ago. Um, the pieces of the fence, parts of the fence were just blowing over. So it was really, really old, like 30 years old. So um, I'm actually very happy that we did because we actually were able to fence in more of our yard. So Grayson has more area to run. And the way that everything is, he can't just open the door and run out. It's like an actual lock, and it's a lot more safe.
Good.
So yeah, so that was our biggest investment that we've done this year. So for his safety.
Well, it sounds like it's definitely enhancing of his quality of life. It gives him more space to play in and probably you more peace of mind that he's
Hmm.
safe. So sure it's
Yeah,
worth it. But
it is. Definitely
yeah,
is, but it hurts the wallet.
I'm sure. And like like again, finances aren't something that we talk that are comfortable to talk about, and I don't even know your situation, but I think it's safe to say that not everyone's as fortunate. So
Yeah.
some people are just stuck, and that's scary.
Mhm.
When you have a child that's, eloping or maybe having seizures at night and you need to monitor them or what, the 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 options of what could be the challenges are endless. So you just never know.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I know we've talked about this a lot, where you were working full time and then, COVID kind of plummeted that. And then you eventually returned back to work part or full time and then went down to part time, which is what you're doing now with your current position.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, that in itself, like, again, our children are worth it. They're worth every inconvenience, every dollar, but that's a very, very real thing. And sometimes I think families have to choose between, do I take my kid to therapy? Do I work and not have that for them? I mean, I can't tell you the countless times I've had to talk to families where they're like, I want to do this, but I have to work. How do I do make this work? And, I do feel for them because I get it. Um, so I think just the loss of income there. And then not only just the income, but I know a lot of my friends that are moms, a common topic is, wow, like you just like lose yourself when you become a mom, you lose
Hmm.
your self-identity. And it's probably heightened more when you have a child that has autism, especially when they're more severely impacted and I know that this is about money, but there is so much sacrifice in general, I think,
Hmm.
in parenting a child with autism.
Yeah, I mean, when when I no longer could work full time, it felt like I was kind of giving up a bit of my independence. And I didn't want to be seen as just a typical stay-at-home mom. Um, though I will say, I think being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest job in the world. It is very, it is very emotionally and physically draining. So props to anybody who does it full time because I could not. It is ridiculously hard. But when I was forced to do it during COVID, um, it it taught me a lot, and it taught me that I really respect people who do it full time, and it taught me that I just do not have that type of personality. I like to have something else to do with my time, and I just like to have something else to look forward to each day. Um, I think now that I'm branching off and doing more things that I want to do with my life, here in 2026, like doing the podcast and um, wanting to do more things in the community to help out with people who have ASD. I'm finding it harder to stay on top of my work. Um, and I would like to not have to work anymore. I mean, I could quit my job if I really wanted to, but I like having a little bit of that financial independence. So um, that's really the reason why I do it. But not only that, but I love the company I work for and I love doing what I do. Um, but yeah, I mean, it definitely it was a big, big, big change going from full time to where I am now. Just the path to get there, and also finding different ways that I can still be myself by not, being a mom and doing things that I want to do and still having my independence, but letting go of a lot of things.
I can't, again, I think I say this a lot, but it's not exactly the same. But I think when people listen, other people share their stories and their experiences, our natural tendency is to kind of relate. And I think for me, I can say I always struggle with that. Like, I really enjoy doing what I do professionally. I enjoy it so much, but I really enjoy being a mom.
Hmm.
And it's always so conflicting for me of like, okay, how do I juggle this in a way that's healthy for my family, that's healthy for me? Um, And I've never really had the opportunity, other than maybe COVID, to really be a full-time stay-at-home mom. Um, and I always imagined that I would love it being fully home, but I also don't really know because I also, like you, I think things that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about my kids. I love my children. They're definitely, above anything else. But um, having that time and those outlets, whether it be like hobbies or professional endeavors, is so important. And um, yeah, I think when I don't have that, it tires me out further. Like I'm more exhausted because I'm not getting my fill, and I know you're a creative person. I don't know how, I'm sure you feel similar. Like I also love the arts, and when I don't have time to do anything like that, I feel very drained as well. Like
Mhm.
I need that creative outlet somewhere. So yeah, I think losing those professional positions, it's more than just losing your money, but also you're losing a little part of yourself too. But again, all this to say, our children are so worth it. They're worth every second. But just acknowledging the sacrifice, I think, is really important.
Yeah, and you often think of the mom being the one who stays home. Um, but actually, when Grayson was first born in Roslyn, I mean, Derek was the one who stayed home. He would work like 2 days a week, and then the rest of the time he was the stay-at-home dad. And I loved it because I would come home and I would be, really happy to see the kids and him, and it was great. But then I was always so tired because of working so much. And, I looking back now, I do have a lot of regret that I was the one who worked so much because I missed out on so much stuff. Missed out on their like first steps, their first words, everything. And now I wish I could like rewind time and go back and do that again. Um, but now that I've been able to have some time at home with them, I've been able to see a lot of their firsts with different things, but it's still like I missed the really fun era, and I wish I could get that back, and I wish I didn't work as much as I did, but that's just where it worked for our family at the time, and you do what you got to do to make it with what you have, and at the time that's what we had, and it just I I wish I could make Grayson a toddler again because he was so much fun and really silly and goofy, but you know, it 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 is what it is. But yeah, um, but when I think about it, I do have that grief that I missed out. Um, but you also can't help but get some feelings of resentment too, um, because I kind of resent the fact that Derek was there for that. I resent the fact that he was able to be there for all of those situations and he was able to experience all that stuff that I wasn't able to experience. And the kids absolutely were glued to him. They loved him so much. I had no relationship with Grayson whatsoever until he was like 4 or 5. And that was because I was just somebody who came home, made and ate dinner and then went to bed. He didn't see me and didn't really interact with me other than that. And it really, that that really was difficult. Um, but when COVID hit and I was home all the time, then it was like, whoa, who's this lady here? Like, I I just kind of was in his face all the time, and he had to learn how to like me. And I'm glad he did because, now we're kind of glued at the hip. But I mean, that first couple of years, it was really, really hard. I always joke and say I was furniture in the room because I he could pay zero attention to me and it wouldn't make a difference to him. Um, but yeah, that was really, really tough. And I do blame the fact that I was working nonstop. Um, and it's kind of funny that I worked for a company that focused on children with autism, and you would think that they would understand kind of what I was going through. Um, and I didn't feel that way. And it was really sad.
Yeah. Now, I mean, that's really tough. That's really tough. I think the feeling of your son not really acknowledging you for the first, what'd you say, 4 years of his life, that's
Hmm.
really tough. But I do think the regret, I I I don't know, but I have this theory that us moms, we just have it really hard. Like no matter what we do, we're always guilty of something. And I think we're always gonna find something to be guilty of. At least I do.
Hmm.
Okay, I was there too much. Maybe I didn't work enough. Maybe I worked too little. Maybe I got too short with my kid, or so it's tough. You can't, the sad truth is you can't go back in time, but it seems like you said, you do have a really great relationship with Grayson now. And, I got to see you and Roz together and, your little like interactions. And, she has her own little personality now. Her sassy personality. I saw her like kind of picking on you the other day. Um, and it seems like you've been able to kind of build some of those relationships with them. Which is good. So we learn from our past, right? Like, and maybe there wasn't much you could do then, you know.
Yeah.
I'll say for me, my mom, she was a single mom, and I'm sure that she regrets a lot of the time that she missed with me. But I will say that I don't look at my childhood in one negative light. She had to work. She was single, had to work multiple jobs, and I see the sacrifice, and now as an adult I'm grateful for it, even though I wouldn't
Mhm.
have wanted to walk through that myself. um, so hopefully your children, at least Rosalind, will see that one day.
Yeah, and I think she will. She luckily had a great dad that was really involved with her when she was that little, and they've have such a special bond now because of it, and I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm sure. So yeah, I like thinking about insurance. So you think, okay, well, they have insurance, so that covers everything, right? And I know we just talked about a lot of the frustrations with it, and you were mentioning like single case agreements, and then the other variable that people don't think about often is, geographically where you live and the options that you have nearby. But um there's a lot of frustrations, I think, surrounding insurance, especially if you don't have like the top of the top of the top.
Hmm.
um do you have any tips about, tips or and even thoughts about insurance and kind of some of those financial stressors or ways that you've navigated? I know that you kept mentioning document, keep everything, um, but what's some of your wisdom or experience there with that?
Um, so I would say yes, keep everything, document everything, write everything down. If you can, ask for something in writing, because it is very, very helpful. Um, the biggest thing would be don't don't think that their answer, whatever answer they give you, is going to be the solid answer. So if they say you are asking for something and you get a denial, that denial that you get that first time, that is not necessarily the end all be all. Um, so fight for what you think your child needs. And, for Grayson in particular, I think about the situation when we were trying to get nursing services for him, and they were just being denied outright. And we fought. I went through 3 or 4 different appeal processes with it, um, from start to us finally getting the nursing care. I think the whole process took about a year and a half. And I, it was so frustrating. I felt like I was repeating myself all the time. I had his pediatrician and every single specialist writing letters of recommendation or not recommendation, but letters of medical necessity. And it was very exhausting. I think by the end of it, I mean, I could do an appeal meeting in my sleep. It was it was that bad. Um, and finally, I don't know if I just got lucky or if I got a really good um person who was doing the appeal trial that day. Um, and we were able to get the services approved. But I mean, for a year and a half, I fought for Grayson to just have simple nursing services to accompany him to school and to be here at home for him when I'm working or if I'm not here. So right now, our approval is basically for round the clock care, but due to staff shortages, he really only gets care when he's at school.
Yeah, that's nuts. So, what you're sitting there waiting, not only is it frustrating, but you're sitting there waiting for a year, year and a half. And what are you doing that whole time, Like, um, yeah, very frustrating. Um,
Yeah, but don't be afraid to ask, the you can you can ask questions, you can find somebody if you need to find like an advocate who can go to bat with you, whether that be somebody like your child's pediatrician, who was a huge our, his pediatrician who does basically everything with me. I mean, she's amazing. She'll jump over any hoop you give her. Like she's wonderful, but it's that kind of person that you need in your corner to kind of just be your cheerleader or be that person to kind of help push you along when you just need that final push. So, but yeah, don't take no for an answer the first time or even like the fifth time. Be the squeaky wheel, be annoying. They will get tired of you. I
yeah.
know from experience. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would say that that definitely, and keep everything, all correspondence. It's very important.
Well, you lived it and you experienced some success after a very long wait. So, for those listening, definitely don't give up. Hopefully, your story will be a little bit shorter, but just as successful as it was with, this situation with the nurse, which to me would be just a no-brainer, for a child to access, the school setting. You would just think that that would be provided if needed. So I think
You would
like,
think.
yeah, you would think so. You would think so. I mean, I'm surprised the school actually wasn't supplying that actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but that might be another topic for another
Hmm.
day. So, and we've discussed this a lot because when you're talking about money, a, a lot of things come along with that. No, money doesn't bring happiness, but it can surely help, it can surely
Hmm.
help aid a person's comfort level and quality of life. And I think there's other emotions that do come along with the financial stress and, maybe some guilt. Am I doing enough? Am I working enough? Our family has less, so I could be providing so much more for my family. Or when I was growing up, we had this and we have this now. And I'm sure it probably gets to a place of, you know, it probably brings you down at some point. I mean, when looking at the financial stressors, whether or not you're not able to work or whether or not you're bringing in enough, has that struck any kind of emotions with you?
Um, the only times that I really feel like it does is when I had a full music studio that I was teaching. And
Mm,
after I had the kids and Grayson started needing a lot of different appointments, I had to stop teaching. And I think that was the thing that really kind of got me because, my degree is in music and, I wanted to do something that I could use my degree for. And during the day, at the time, I was working with kids um, who had autism and, basically was a BHT. And I wasn't using that autism. I mean, I wasn't using my music degree in any sense of the autism field. And so it was really discouraging when I had to stop teaching, and it was a loss of income, and it was kind of like my own personal creative outlet like you were talking about.
Mhm.
um and so yeah, I mean that definitely, I mean it does, it makes you kind of feel like you've given up a little bit of yourself, but in this case it was like a huge part of myself because that's like what my dream was, like owning my own music studio and stuff. But, looking back at it now, I did what I had to do because of the kids. And there are times where I wish, I could still teach. And maybe someday I will be able to again. It's just right now I have to do what works for us. And
Yeah,
that's just not in my cards.
right. Yeah, I can imagine you had your dream and then you had to willingly give it up.
Yeah.
Um, so it'd be really hard. Have you guys had to like limit your spending on certain things? Have you guys had to change your lifestyle? Or have you been lucky enough to pretty much kind of carry on as prior?
Um, yeah, I mean, we've made a lot of like cutbacks because when we moved into this house, I mean, it's a much bigger house, so you use a lot more of the utilities. We drive further distances because everything from our house is like a good 30, 45 minutes away. Um, you have two kids that are bigger, and so they eat more food, things like that. So yeah, we've definitely felt the costs and the cost of everything that is going up right now. um you know Literally it's impossible to be a one income family right now. But yeah, I mean, we had to make a lot of cutbacks. We uh don't have cable. We stream everything. um we trying to think of what else. We cut back on that. That was like the big one, is the cable. Like we cut cable completely. We went with basic like internet and cut down on, like, I love audiobooks, so we cut back on, we had like two or three different audiobook memberships. We cut back down to just one. So it's really not putting in like a play for Rocket Money or whatever, but like that whole Rocket Money app, how it kind of tells you how many subscriptions you had. We went through and we cut a lot of those subscriptions. So like all of like Disney Plus, Netflix, all of that stuff that like we had the like advanced or like the pro whatever quality, or the advanced, or like what is that called?
Premium?
Yeah. So the premium accounts, we just downgraded to like the standard. So I mean, it's little things like that here and there. Um, I also don't go to Starbucks like every other day anymore, um, which is sad for me. But yeah, I mean, we definitely made a lot of a lot of cuts where we needed to. I also am like crazy about only buying things that are on sale, and I only buy things that I have a coupon for. And I mean, it helps, but it's, I do what I need to do to allow me to stay part-time and to allow us to really live the way that we're living while the cost of living is still going up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is kind of off topic, but you're mentioning all these subscriptions, and it's just interesting how times have changed. I mean, we really have moved towards like everything is subscription based now, and you don't realize, how much you're spending.
Yeah,
I'd probably be shocked if I looked to see how much we're spending because that is an expense that you don't really think about. It's invisible until you realize,
yeah,
oh, that's where my money's going.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, and I think that there's probably families out there that probably have to do a lot more, a lot more cuts, and yeah, it's a lot. So
So when I think about like, I always say that you need like survival tips to kind of deal with all of this. You know, you don't want to make cuts to the important things though. So like your child's services and things like that. You know, there are resources available out there. If you're not on Medicaid, apply for Medicaid. Um, it's not it's not easy. You need to have like a lot of specific things to be approved for Medicaid, but if you have an autism diagnosis, I mean, that's a lifelong condition that is not going to be cured. So, I mean, and Medicaid, especially when they're younger, can help out with so much. You know, we still get diapers covered for Grayson. That is really a big expense that, you know, we just would not, even though we're working on the potty training, he does still need diapers. So that is a big expense that Medicaid helps us with. Um, it also covers his medical helmet that he wears. And that, I mean, a medical helmet, you wouldn't think it would cost that much money, but because of how much goes into the helmet, I mean, they're like over $1,000, so they are pretty expensive. So Medicaid, yeah, just apply for it. The worst they can say is no. There are also grants available. You can always get on payment plans if you have to pay for services out of pocket. I know that that's like not the easiest thing to do, but the economy in general is not an easy thing right now. And I think that you need to prioritize what is going to be the best for you and for your child. And so, you know, letting go of the things that you can let go, cutting the things you can cut, adjusting your budget to include, you know, the things that you didn't expect. Prioritize your kids' therapy and things that they need, you know, adjusting things. That really is going to be the best places to start. And you can Google like grants and waivers, things like that. And your county should be able to assist you with like applying for that kind of service if your child qualifies.
Yeah, I think a lot of families don't realize that they can actually qualify for Medicaid. Some, often we think of it as being mostly income based, and I think it does vary a bit state to state by like some of the rules, but um, like I know that when you have a diagnosis, you can qualify for Medicaid. And I know in Pennsylvania, your children can get, coverage. You might have to pay a certain amount, even if they don't have a disability, that you can still get, coverage for your child through Medicaid.
Mhm.
But with the autism diagnosis, I think it does open up a lot more doors.
All right, Toni. Well, thanks so much for having this conversation. I know it's not really comfortable and people kind of just don't really think about it. They just kind of do. Um, but yeah, I mean, for the listeners, we just really want to reiterate that if you are struggling financially, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. Having a family, you make impossible choices every day, and every family is different.
Well, thanks for joining us. We hope that you will follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Don't forget to share, comment, like, all of the above. We would love to hear from you. Give us your thoughts and ideas on possible topics for upcoming episodes.
Next time, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, IEPs and the education system. We'll be talking about what to expect in a meeting and what it's really like to advocate for your child in a system that doesn't always feel like it's built for them.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Sip and stim. Sip and stim.